Did John Wesley Hardin ever kill 42 men? No. While this is often repeated, it comes from a sensationalist biography written by Hardin's biographer and friend, not from official records. Historians believe that around 42 is accurate, but they disagree on whether all were in self-defense. He might have killed 3 Union soldiers, though some accounts claim that the incident never occurred. There is little doubt that he killed at least 23 men, but it is possible that the number was closer to 42. John Wesley Hardin was never supposed to be an outlaw. He was born on May 26, 1853, in Bonham, Texas, the son of a Methodist preacher. His father, James Gipp Hardin, rode the Texas circuit delivering sermons, while his mother, Elizabeth, raised him in the shadow of the Bible. They named him after John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, hoping he would grow into a man of faith, honor, and restraint. But Texas after the Civil War was no place for restraint. Reconstruction tore at the state's soul. Union soldiers patrolled roads, freedmen sought justice, and old Confederates simmered with resentment. Violence crackled in the air like a summer lightning storm. For a boy like Hardin, smart and restless, it was only a matter of time before trouble found him. That trouble came early. At just 14, Hardin stabbed a fellow student during a schoolyard fight. The boy survived, but the taste of violence had sunk in. At 15, Hardin's life veered irreversibly off course. In 1868, he killed a freed black man during an argument, an act of hot-headed rage that marked him forever. The law came for him and Hardin fled. He would never live a normal life again. On the run, Hardin learned quickly that survival in Texas often came down to who drew first. He later claimed that when Union soldiers tried to arrest him, he killed 3 of them. Whether that was the truth or just one of his many boasts, the story stuck. And by the time he was 17, John Wesley Hardin was already whispered about as a killer. The whispers only grew louder. In 1871, Hardin signed onto a cattle drive up the Chisholm Trail. For most cowboys, the journey was backbreaking and dull, punctuated by dust storms, river crossings, and the occasional saloon fight. For Hardin, it was a blood-soaked rite of passage. By his own count, he killed 7 men on the trail, and 3 more when the drive reached Abilene, Kansas. Abilene was the roughest cow town on the frontier, a place where whiskey, gambling, and gunfights flowed as freely as the herds of longhorns. It was there that Hardin reportedly crossed paths with Marshal Wild Bill Hickok. Some accounts claim Hickok took a liking to the cocky young Texan, nicknaming him Little Arkansas. Others suggest Hardin outdrew him in a tense standoff. Whether or not those stories were true, one thing is certain. Hardin left Abilene with his reputation sealed as one of the most dangerous young gunmen alive. Back in Texas, he married Jane Bowen, started a family, and tried, at least for a time, to settle into domestic life. But violence followed him like a shadow. In the early 1870s, Texas erupted into the Sutton-Taylor feud, one of the bloodiest family wars in the state's history. Hardin threw in with the Taylors, aligning himself with Jim Taylor and his faction. The feud gave him another chance to spill blood, and in 1873 he personally gunned down Jack Helm, a former Texas state policeman who was both feared and hated. That killing alone elevated Hardin's notoriety across the state, but it was in 1874, in the town of Comanche, Texas, that his fate was truly sealed. Hardin was in town with friends when Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb approached. Accounts of what happened next vary. Some say Webb was simply trying to serve a warrant. Others claim Hardin suspected an ambush. What is certain is that within seconds Webb lay dead, shot by Hardin. The killing of a lawman brought down a storm unlike anything Hardin had faced before. That very night, a mob nearly lynched him. He barely escaped. From then on, every sheriff, Texas Ranger, and bounty hunter in the state had his name on their lips. For the next 3 years, Hardin lived on the run. He fled to Florida, then Alabama, dragging his family with him. Along the way, men continued to die. Sometimes it was self-defense, sometimes it was pride, sometimes it was just because Hardin couldn't let an insult slide. But no outlaw runs forever. On July 23, 1877, Hardin's luck finally ran out. The Texas Rangers, led by Captain John Armstrong, tracked him to Pensacola, Florida. A brief scuffle broke out on a train platform, and before Hardin could reach for his pistol, Armstrong wrestled him to the ground. For the first time since boyhood, John Wesley Hardin was in custody. Tried for the murder of Charles Webb, Hardin was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The outlaw who had gunned down more than 30 men, who had survived feuds and shootouts, now found himself locked behind bars. And strangely, prison changed him, or at least it appeared to. Hardin studied law, read the Bible, and even taught Sunday school to fellow inmates. He wrote long letters protesting that he had never killed a man who didn't deserve it, painting himself as a victim of circumstance. After 17 years in 1894, he was pardoned. At 41, Hardin stepped back into the world, older, grayer, but not truly reformed. He became a lawyer, opening a practice and trying once again to reshape his reputation. He even began writing his autobiography, hoping to secure his place not just as a killer, but as a man of consequence in Texas history. Yet beneath the veneer of respectability, the old Hardin still lived. In 1895, he moved to El Paso, a town still clinging to its Wild West identity. Gambling halls, brothels, and saloons lit the dusty streets, and lawmen often doubled as outlaws. It was the perfect stage for a man like Hardin. Almost immediately, scandal engulfed him. He began an affair with the wife of Martin Meraz, a client and cattle thief who had fled to Mexico. When Meraz returned, ready to settle scores, he was ambushed and killed. The whispers claimed Hardin orchestrated it. And the man who pulled the trigger? Constable John Selman, a lawman with a reputation for violence. Some said Hardin promised Selman money for the job but never paid up. Others claimed Hardin had insulted Selman's son in public. Whatever the truth, tension between the two men grew. In El Paso, everyone could feel it. The end came quickly. On the night of August 19, 1895, Hardin was at the Acme Saloon. He looked every inch the dapper gambler, dressed in a fine suit, rolling dice and boasting to anyone who would listen. The air was thick with cigar smoke and laughter, the sound of clinking glasses mixing with the rattle of Hardin's dice. Then the doors swung open. John Selman Sr. walked in. Selman was a man as dangerous as Hardin, perhaps more so. He had lived on both sides of the law, killing when it suited him, wearing the badge when it paid. He stepped through the haze of the saloon, eyes fixed on Hardin. No challenge was issued, no words exchanged. Selman drew his revolver, raised it, and fired. The crack of the gun cut through the noise. Hardin jerked forward, a bullet tearing through the back of his head. He slumped lifelessly against the bar, his dice scattering across the floor. The deadliest gunfighter in Texas, the man who had killed more than 30 men, the man who had fought the Rangers and outlived his enemies, died without ever getting the chance to draw. The news rippled through El Paso like wildfire. Some called it justice, some called it murder. Selman was arrested and put on trial, but the law moved slowly. Before a verdict could be reached, Selman himself was gunned down in another dispute, killed by a fellow lawman. With his death, whatever truth Selman carried about why he shot Hardin went to the grave with him. Hardin was buried in El Paso's Concordia Cemetery, beneath a granite headstone that still draws curious travelers. His grave is a reminder of the contradictions he embodied: a preacher's son and a killer, a lawyer and a criminal, a family man and an adulterer. He liked to say he never killed anyone who didn't deserve it. History, of course, paints a different picture, and yet his story lingers because it captures the Wild West in its truest form: brutal, lawless, unpredictable, and larger than life. Hardin's death remains shrouded in mystery. Did he fall victim to chance? Or did his long trail of blood finally catch up to him, killing him in the form of revenge he himself had taught the frontier so well? Perhaps that is the final truth of John Wesley Hardin, that in the Wild West, no man escaped the reckoning forever,